So after the election, one person Ayentina Lokasa in all of this issue, former President John Kufour. We all know, say, before this particular year, December 7th elections, no, ex-President John Kufour in December 2 just said we should vote for Bawumia because Bawumia has the vision, he has the tenacity, he has the humility, and he also has the spark to lead Ghana for what Ghana wants to be in the future and also in years to come. But then Ghana 4, they had made up their mind, and regardless what ex-President Kufuor can, Ghana 4 still they did not vote or turn out in their numbers or perhaps switch their vote for the National Democratic Congress. Today, for the first time, we are hearing from ex-President Kufuor and his spokesperson, because he is a spokesperson for ex-President Kufuor. But then, before the elections, or switch it up kakra. Now, Nipa American now say me, Mr. Frank Echekum. So the name even should sound familiar. And Wakoko and Sembe, before I could see some of the kind in its entirety, we want to take a critical look at statement via Omeki ya. So our statement no make here and I'm focus. Okay, so this is the whole thing. Now, if we enter screens, no, so not it for Sheniye. Osha, or say MPP's arrogance hardship caused 2024 defeat. Kufuor spokesperson. So now, for the first time, we are hearing that ex-President Kufuor, the message he preached to Ghanaians before the election, say, you vote Dr. Bawumia Addo. Now, after the election, MPP for Lucy, he is coming back to tell us, and his spokesperson, let me give him the benefit of the doubt, say his spokesperson is now coming out to tell us, say, hey, you guys lost because of number one, arrogance, HardShip, and also how you guys did your things in the party. Your whole team voice in just a few seconds, but okay, maybe so. I want you to take a very critical look. Look at this thing. I'll say there was arrogance. There was hardship in the system, and it seems those in power failed to fully recognize the discontent. The disconnect between the leadership and the grassroots likely contributed to the significant defeat, he stated. He noted the signs of dissatisfaction were evident long before the elections, but the new Patriotic Party leadership did not take corrective measures to avert the impending loss. The signs were there. The narrative shows that things have been falling apart for a very long time. We failed to heed to the warnings and take corrective and also proactive measures, and that's all that led us here. So now we are getting a different approach from the camp of John Kufour. And I remember someone posting on Twitter said, ex-President Kufour, we like you so much. Please don't get involved with this mess, because now you limit yourself and you limit your power. And MPP for or minimum go someone should be back. And today nipa ne boni. You could see some Dr. Frank Ejekum or the two ja yeba yebeto aso.
Has been there, the bulwark for the party. It's been the last standpoint for the party, and it's the go-to region of the party. And the party has always won in that region by massive votes. This time around, it wasn't so. And you said it right, it's because of the very, nature of the happenings in the MPP, where people are getting so disenchanted. And so many of them decided to say that, look, we are not going to vote. Many of them had agreed with Alan Shermaten's stance that, look, one of the choice of candidates from the presidency to MPs is not the best. Yes, as the contributor said, there's arrogance, there's hardship in the system, and all this we're doing, and it appears those in power did not really recognize that very well. So that must have led to all that. So for the party's defeat. In the case of Alan, there's also the campaign, the misinformation that went on to say that voting for Alan was a waste of vote because Alan was not going to win anyway. Many people who were diehard, even Alan supporters, did buy into that debate, that argument, and not only in Ashanti, nationwide. And so many who thought they could vote for Alan, but because they thought that voting for Alan would then make their votes wasted, decided, look, I won't waste my time to go walk over to the polling center to vote at all. To many people, that's what happened. That's what we believe accounted for his loss. But be it as it may, I think the greater point has been made that his major point for departure from the party was the imposition of candidates, the presidential candidates, the MPs and stuff like that, which he thought was not pretending well, and that's what has led to this. But I must say that, as you know, the NPP is going to set up an internal mechanism to find out what reasons really led to their loss. And I'm sure some of this may come up, but let's wait also to hear what they come up with. But I foresee that some of these issues will come up even as they go around to talk to the people.
But, you know, looking at that last point that you made, I have heard a lot of rhetoric from the camp of the MPP in terms of why they lost. And from where I sit, I'm beginning to ask, are some people still in the denial stage, or maybe a lack of acceptance of the reality? And here's why. If you listen to political party commentators, I've had some of them come here and sit with me, and they would point to, in fact, the latest I heard was that the NDC had rigged the elections. Respectfully, that was a bit, that the MPP, the NDC had rigged the elections per Afenyo Marken, the majority leader. Then some party communicators have said, it was because our people didn't turn out to vote. The question is, why did they not turn out to vote? Some say, based on the metrics from the last election, if you do the trend analysis, it means 40% of our people didn't turn out to vote. Why did that happen? I've heard the vice president, the candidate of the MPP, say, apart from our people not turning out to vote, and our people is subjective, because some would also tell you that MPP members voted NDC. Some of them did. You can't call anybody your person. People float. And finally, even the media has been accused. The vice president says we were largely against the MPP. But if you look at MPP media, so to speak, media houses that tend to rail against the NDC and root for the MPP, I don't know whether that makes any sense. Respectfully, of course. So if I look at what has been said in the public domain so far, this committee may be set up, but is the MPP in denial? Are they getting to the root of the problems with the acts, or are they still living in some wonderland like Alice?
Well, it's very easy to live in a state of self-denial in such an instance where you thought so heavily, especially because you had everything behind you. But the reality to me still remains as to some of the factors that is because of people were just not disenchanted with the party and taking into consideration the hardships of the country, and then the imposition of candidates everywhere. People were just to say, enough is enough. Gone are those days where people just got because of MP, willy-nilly, I'll vote for the MPP candidate. I don't care what happens. People are wising now because their conditions are not getting any better. And so, of course, why do you vote for a party? Because among everything else, you also believe that it will bring you good prospects, whichever way. But in terms of the campaign, I must say that I think and I believe that MPP did wage a very good campaign. I think Vice President Bawumia did quite a lot. I mean, moving around.
He went to all the constituencies.
Yes, and he was there, and in the media space, I saw him more than anybody else, because the resources and the avenues he had behind him. I saw that if a count is made of adverts, of postings, of clippings, of whatever, both on both of social media and traditional media, you'd want to believe that Vice President Mahama had a lot more share than any
Vice President Bawumia, right?
I'm not in his shoes, but Vice President Bawumia, yes. I am not in his shoes and that of his committees. So I wouldn't know what aspects they've looked at to make them arrive at that conclusion that they did not have that media space. But I was a bit surprised, but I thought that, looking from the outside, he had a bit more media space than many others. Yeah. But I mean, it's for them to come and justify it. And but I thought that he did a good campaign, except that people were not buying into the message. That is it.
And I wholly agree with you. That is why it took some of us in the media by surprise. But anyway, it is what it is. Let's now focus on issues related to the Electoral Commission. First off, having looked at the entirety of the process, now I hear CODEO is reviewing its reports on election 2024, among others. And some of us had thought it had been a pretty smooth process until we saw certain things also happen. And then in the aftermath of the election, certain developments. But from where you sit, what would be your assessment of election 2024 at the presidential and parliamentary levels?
Okay, on both levels, I think you did say it right that it had been smooth. Pre-election, the campaigning and the events went on quite well. We didn't hear of any violence or any upheavals. Of course, there were little skirmishes here and there, but by and large, it went on very smoothly. Election period itself, on the election day and the electioneering process itself also went very well, very smoothly. And I think people, they said a few cases, very few cases, it was all smooth running. The problem, and we must all congratulate ourselves for that, I mean, how far we've come in that process. The problem we have now is the post-election violence and instability that is going on, which is of deep concern to everybody. And that we must look at, because that is taking away the marks we got from our electoral processes and our democratic processes. We should look at that carefully. You know, times have been fighting. I thought it had abated because we've come a long way from the time, for instance, when President Kufour left office in 2009. I remember there was a group formed called the Ga Lands for Ga People, who were marauding the states and then virtually did prevent President Kufour from occupying his office, the officially given office, somewhere around Bridge, ostensibly because he was not a Ga. And he never occupied that office. I mean, that was a very pathetic scene until a new one was found on him later on. You know, so, and for all that period, I mean, he operated from his home, which was not the best for a president who had performed so successfully to the admiration of the world. And then